Picture this. You're walking into a bustling market in 14th century England. You're craving something spicy, a little sweet, wonderfully pungent. So you walk up to a spice merchant, point to a single pound of imported ginger, and ask, "How much?" The merchant looks at you and says, "That'll cost you exactly one whole live sheep." No joke, a literal sheep for a pound of ginger.
Welcome to This Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're here with us today. We're unpacking the wild, incredible story of a plant that literally shaped empires, sailed across vast oceans, and somehow found its way into almost every single kitchen on Earth. We're talking about Zingiber officinale, which you probably just know as ginger. Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today's journey. First, the journey of a global spice. Second, we'll go inside the ginger rhizome. Third, health facts and myths. Fourth, from farms to gardens. And finally, culinary uses around the world. All right, kicking things off with Section 1, Journey of a Global Spice, the millennia-long voyage of Zingiber officinale. So, to really wrap our heads around ginger, we've got to start with a pretty surprising biological secret. It is a true cultigen. What does that mean? It means it doesn't actually exist in the wild. It's entirely a product of human cultivation. It's like a botanical partnership spanning millennia. If we trace its path back about 5,000 years, the Austronesian peoples of maritime Southeast Asia were starting their massive oceanic expansion. And ginger? It was so vital to them that they brought it along as a canoe plant, taking it all the way across the Pacific, even as far as Hawaii, and using it to bless their ships. Fast forward a bit to the 1st century CE, and traders had already carried it from India over to the Mediterranean, where ancient Greeks and Romans absolutely prized it. And here's a crazy historical fact. Jump to 1495, an archaeologist literally found preserved ginger sitting at the bottom of the Baltic Sea, salvaged from the wreck of a Danish flagship called the Grebeshunden. Fast forward again to the 16th century, and the Spanish crown was actively encouraging folks to smuggle it into the Caribbean. And it thrived there. It thrived so wildly that for a little while, it actually displaced sugar as the leading export crop on Hispaniola and Puerto Rico. Just amazing stuff. Moving right along to Section 2, Inside the Ginger Rhizome, Botany and Molecular Chemistry. Let's move to and see how this builds from macrohistory to microbiology. Now, this perfectly illustrates a really common misconception. You hear people say ginger root all the time, right? Well, biologically speaking, the part we're eating is absolutely not a root. It's a rhizome. A rhizome is basically this chunky, spreading underground stem. Above ground, though, the plant is totally stunning. It shoots up what are called pseudostems, which are these false stems made of tightly rolled leaf bases, and they can grow up to a meter tall. And when it finally blooms, you get these beautiful, delicate pale yellow flowers with striking purple edges. But the real magic, that happens down at the molecular level. It's all tucked away in the 1 to 3% of the rhizome's weight that's made up of volatile oils. This edible chemistry is the exact reason why ginger behaves so completely differently depending on how you prep it. Think about it. When ginger is raw and fresh, it gets its spicy kick from a compound called gingerol. But the second you heat it up or cook it, those gingerols chemically transform into shogols, which are way more pungent and spicy. And what if you dry it? Well, the gingerols convert into zingerone, which drops the heat way down and leaves you with a much milder, spicy sweet aroma. It's like a science experiment right in your frying pan. All right, let's turn to Section 3, Health Facts and Myths, Evaluating the Medical Evidence. Because ginger has been a staple in traditional medicine for literally centuries, we want to take a completely neutral, objective look at the actual clinical research here. Now, raw ginger does contain around 400 chemical compounds, but current medical reviews show only low-quality evidence that it helps with nausea during pregnancy. And honestly, there is no good evidence that it alleviates chemotherapy-induced nausea. Also, despite having some anti-inflammatory properties, there is insufficient evidence right now that it provides real pain relief for osteoarthritis. From a safety perspective, this is really important. Ginger can interact with prescription medications, specifically anticoagulant blood thinners like warfarin. So while it is generally recognized as safe for dietary use, its clinical efficacy for treating specific diseases remains largely unproven. Okay, shifting gears to Section 4, From Farms to Gardens, Cultivating the Spice. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is understanding the sheer massive scale of how this plant makes it from the dirt to our plates. To put this into perspective, in 2023, the world produced a staggering 4.9 million tons of raw ginger. That is a mountain of spice. India absolutely dominates this market, producing 45% of the global supply. They're followed by Nigeria at 16%, China at 14%, and Nepal at 6%. But what's truly fascinating about India's immense chunk of that production is that a massive portion of it is driven by homestead farming. We're talking about families and communities working adaptively together right there in warm, humid climates to cultivate this crop. But make no mistake, commercial farming is not a walk in the park. It is highly demanding. Farmers need very specific elevations to get it right, ideally between 300 to 900 meters. And the seed rate? It's incredibly high. You need anywhere from 800 to 1,000 kilograms of seed rhizomes just to plant a single acre. Farmers have to meticulously prepare the soil, spacing out rows 25 to 30 centimeters apart, and carefully manage the soil nutrition with a really precise nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium ratio of 30-50-50. Plus, they face constant threats from pests like shoot borers and root knot nematodes, and diseases like rhizome rot, so constant vigilance, heavy mulching to retain moisture, and precise irrigation, those are absolute necessities.
But hey, you don't need a massive farm to pull this off. You can actually grow ginger right at home, even in a large container. Here's how. First, pre-sprout an organic rhizome indoors using a tray of moist compost. Second, wait until the nighttime temperatures hit 55 degrees Fahrenheit and then plant it in a 6-inch deep trench outside. Make sure the eyes, or the little buds, are facing up. Third, remember ginger is a tropical plant, so water it regularly and mulch it heavily to lock in all that moisture. Finally, after about 8 to 10 months, it is ready to harvest. And there's a fantastic perk to growing it yourself. Homegrown ginger hasn't developed the tough, thick skin you see on commercial varieties. It's super thin-skinned, which means you don't even need to peel it before you toss it in your cooking.
And that brings us to Section 5, Culinary Uses Around the World, a global kitchen staple. We have finally arrived at the best part, how we actually get to enjoy this incredibly versatile spice. Let's take a quick, mouth-watering sensory tour, starting over in Asia. In India, ginger's spicy, aromatic bite is totally essential for a warming cup of masala chai or a cooling summer yogurt drink known as sambaram. In Myanmar, it steps up as the main food rather than just a background spice in gin chaat, which is this vibrant salad of shredded ginger preserved in oil with nuts and seeds. Down in Indonesia, you can cozy up with wedang jahe, a comforting hot beverage that perfectly balances the sharp pungency of ginger with rich palm sugar. And of course, in Japan, young ginger is pickled in vinegar to create that bright red beanie shoga or the sweet pale pink gari that you love eating right alongside your sushi. But ginger's reach goes way beyond Asia. In the Caribbean, it's the spicy backbone of holiday sorrel and, of course, that famous, fiery Jamaican ginger beer. And get this, on the Greek island of Corfu, they actually brew their own traditional ginger beer called Tsitsibira, which is a legacy left over from the British. Over in France, they distill it into an incredibly elegant Canton liqueur. And in Iran, ginger provides that perfect warming spice profile for traditional gingerbread cookies, baked specifically for the Nowruz New Year celebrations in the city of Gorgan.
So, the crucial point is understanding exactly when the ginger was harvested, because that completely dictates how you cook with it. Fresh young ginger is fleshy, juicy, and relatively mild. That makes it absolutely perfect for pickling, eating raw as a garnish, or just throwing into a light vegetable stir-fry. On the flip side, mature or dry ginger has been sitting in the ground for those full 8 to 10 months. It's fibrous, it's dry, and it is intensely pungent. This is the heavy-duty ginger you want to grind into a powder for your baked goods or use to stand up to the robust flavors of a heavy meat curry.
Think about it, from an ancient Austronesian canoe sailing across the Pacific to a 15th century shipwreck sitting at the bottom of the Baltic Sea. From 400 complex chemical compounds reacting to the heat in your frying pan, to massive homestead farms in India, and simple garden pots on a sunny patio, ginger has taken a truly spectacular journey to reach us. So, I just have to ask, considering the millennia of history and the complex botany packed into every single slice, how will you look at your next cup of ginger tea? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time.